You think homelessness is sleeping on a park bench? In Las Vegas in the year 2025. Many people are forced to eat leftover food from dumpsters behind hotels and sleep next to drainage sites where steam rises from sweltering sewer pipes in the desert night. Just a few hundred meters from the Strip, the glamorous boulevard of million-dollar show Another World exists. A world without lights, without hope, and without welcome. There every night is a struggle for survival. And every meal is the result of courage or desperation. And you'll ask yourself, how can the most dazzling city in America Number 1, a slum in the desert. Just a few minutes' drive from the Strip, where the neon lights have barely faded, you will encounter rows of mottled blue-gray and silver tents stretching across the arid, sandy outskirts of Las Vegas. No street names, no house numbers. This isn't a campsite. It's home to hundreds of people with no address. Without electricity, water, or public trash cans, these neighborhoods persist, and over time have formed a kind of self-organized community. Some take on the task of distributing aid. Others act as night guards. Some have even set up makeshift medical stations with tarps and wooden planks where they hand out cold medicine bandages and kind inquiries. Though temporary, this is what they call home. However, according to local authorities, these places are classified as illegal encampments or urban slums. In 2024, Las Vegas carried out more than 130 cleanup campaigns in homeless areas, according to a report by the Clark County Board of Commissioners. Tents were dismantled, personal belongings were collected, and people were told to move along, but not where to go. Yet, a few weeks later, the tents reappear like resilient flowers pushing through the sand and rock. For many, this is the last resort amid a worsening housing crisis. When the rent for a single room exceeds $1,200 a month, but the minimum wage brings in less than $1,800 a month, setting up a tent on an empty plot of land is no longer a choice. It's a survival solution. Notably, many of these camps are not entirely without support. Nonprofit organizations like Help of Southern Nevada and the Nevada Homeless Alliance have coordinated to provide food, clean water, and information about safe shelters. They don't see this as a long-term solution, but they understand that temporary stability is still better than neglect. These tent communities may look chaotic, but if you stop and observe, you will see they operate with their own order, based on kindness, volunteerism, and the effort to preserve humanity in a harsh place. Slums is what the city calls them. Home is what they call themselves. That is the difference between an urban policy and a human story. And when the system isn't compassionate enough, it is these small communities that are preserving a piece of dignity for those who have been forgotten. Number 2, eating trash is not a choice. It's an act of survival. In the heart of dazzling Las Vegas, there is a man named Byron Johnson, who, according to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, has been homeless for nearly 2 decades. He doesn't sleep on park benches or seek space in crowded shelters. He simply goes to a public water faucet near the Shera complex, uses that water to wash his face, keep his clothes clean, and hold on to his self-belief. "I've been homeless for almost 20 years," he says. "This place is where I can wash drink water and live with dignity." Mr. Byron is not an isolated case. According to a recent survey by the Southern Nevada Homelessness Census, there are now more than 6,500 homeless individuals in Clark County, a number that has surged amid soaring housing prices and overwhelmed support services. And while the 3 Square Food Bank distributes tens of millions of meals each year, the supply only meets a fraction of the actual need. often just one hot meal per day for those on the support list. Meanwhile, the city of Las Vegas discards thousands of tons of food every day from its casinos, restaurants, and catering services. The figure is estimated to be as high as 3,000 tons, according to a local urban heritage study. Many homeless people circle the commercial centers after closing, searching for an unopened loaf of bread, an untouched salad box, anything to get them through to the next day. A woman who used to be a bartender once called it the dignity filter. She didn't want to eat leftovers, but starving to death was perfectly acceptable to society. When I asked if she felt ashamed, she just smiled and said, "When you've been hungry for 3 days, you understand that shame is a luxury you can no longer afford." Both Byron and people like her, who live each day, eating what they can, breathing as they can, suffering but not broken, teach us something important when the system fails to protect you. Every small act, like finding clean water, a free shower, or an edible piece of bread, is what keeps you alive. Here, eating trash is not just an act of desperation, it is the final proof of the survival instinct of perseverance and of the right to exist that everyone deserves. Number 3. The invisible victims. In the city known as America's entertainment capital, Swegens, over 1,500 motel rooms have quietly become temporary homes for families with young children. These cramped rooms with no kitchens and little privacy are for many the last option before sleeping on the streets. Alondra, 8 years old, told a charity organization that she no longer likes going to school because we're always moving. "I can't even remember which school is mine anymore." According to statistics from the Clark County School District, there are thousands of children in unstable housing, many of whom have to study while sleep-deprived, hungry, and without a place to do their homework at night. The adults worry about scraping together the rent, while the children try to hold on to a piece of their childhood in a temporary space. Meanwhile, transgender and lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer plus individuals face a different kind of trauma rejection from community support centers themselves. Although Las Vegas has some inclusive shelters, a survey by the LGBTQ Center of Southern Nevada found that more than 40% of homeless transgender individuals in Las Vegas have been denied entry or felt unsafe in public shelters. Many are forced to sleep outdoors, not for lack of space, but because they cannot face the discrimination, hurtful words, or the risk of assault. A person named Maya, 26 years old, shared that she was kicked out of a shelter after transitioning because she didn't fit the gender-based rooming policy. Since then, she has lived in a park trying to protect herself each night with a rescue whistle. The elderly, those who need the most care, fall into silence. They don't use smartphones, have no internet, and don't know how to access websites to apply for housing or food assistance. "I don't know how to send an email. My children are gone. No one helps me," said a 72-year-old man when asked about registering for the Section 8 program. In a city of technology and glamour, there are people being left behind by the digital tide, not because they are weak, but because the system is not flexible enough to embrace them. These three groups, children, the elderly, and transgender people, are the voices most easily ignored in Las Vegas's housing crisis. But they are also the ones who remind us of something clear: a solution cannot be one size fits all. It requires listening and adapting based on the real needs of each individual. Number 4. A makeshift economy for survival. Beyond the glamorous hotels and dazzling boulevards, an ecosystem of survival operates quietly in empty lots, abandoned parking garages, and along the Las Vegas freeways. There are no stores or banks here, but there is a bartering economy, makeshift, rustic, yet essential for those who no longer have a place in the formal system. Here, people don't use money. They trade water for canned food, a few cold pills for a thin blanket, or share gasoline in return for a loaf of bread. There are no fixed prices, only need and empathy. Carlos, a man in his 40s who worked as a delivery driver before the pandemic, shared, "I save everything that might be useful, a tea bag, a couple of batteries, to trade for eye drops or breakfast the next day." Out here, everyone has something someone else needs. Under the desert sun, when hot food and cool water become luxuries, every act of exchange is a matter of life and death. In addition, many find ways to get by with side hustles. Cleaning car windows at intersections, collecting aluminum cans, watching cars for tourists, or cleaning up trash around attractions, in exchange for a few dollars or leftover fast food. Although not considered legal labor, these jobs help them maintain a sense of self-reliance, not being completely dependent on aid, which is already scarce and inconsistent. Some local police officers, despite pressure from the sidewalk clearing policies, choose not to intervene too harshly. If we don't let them sell water or watch cars, how are they supposed to live? One shared in a local report. This is not an ideal economy, but it reveals the incredible adaptability of people at the bottom of society, those who are still striving to hold on to the last shreds of their dignity in a city that is forgetting them. The slum economy is not a solution. It is a wake-up call. It reminds us that when a society fails to protect its most vulnerable, they will, in their own way, build a new form of survival. Number 5. When a person no longer feels human. In Las Vegas, one can lose a home, a job, all material possessions. But what is more painful, more silent, is losing the feeling of being human. Paul Vautrinho was once a theater student. He had dreams, talent, and a future ahead of him. But addiction and poverty dragged him to the bottom of society. Living for 3 years in the storm drain system beneath Las Vegas, where they call themselves the mole people, those who live underground. "I thought I would die there with a needle in my arm, and worse, I felt relieved by that thought." Paul recounted, "It wasn't because he wanted to die. It was because after so many months of living like a ghost, avoided by the world and rejected by himself, he no longer believed he was worth saving." This is what happens to many homeless people in Las Vegas. It's not just hunger, the cold, or the lack of safety. It's the erosion of identity. When you are no longer called by your name, when no one makes eye contact with you, when everything around you says, "You do not belong here." Nevada currently has only 28 psychiatrists per 100,000 residents. The mental health support system is almost inaccessible to those without an address, internet, or identification. And so depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder accumulate silently, unnamed, undiagnosed, and untreated. Some, like Paul, are lucky enough to get a second chance. After being arrested and entered into the drug court program, he overcame his addiction. Today, he is the director of the organization Shine a Light, helping others who once lived in the storm drains to find their way back to life. But what about the thousands of others? For them, loss is not an event. It is a process that grinds away at their dignity, their emotions bit by bit, until they themselves no longer believe they are worthy of a compassionate gaze. In a city as dazzling as Las Vegas, there are people who are fading away, not because they are weak, but because no one has the patience to see them as human anymore. Number 6. Candles in the desert. Under the blinding lights of Las Vegas, where dreams seem reserved only for those who can afford them, flames of hope are still kept alive, not with fanfare or noise, but with quiet necessity. While most of the city is preoccupied with the stage lights, a few organizations are silently building another kind of stage one, where people are seen not because they stand out, but because they have fallen. The Courtyard Homeless Resource Center, just a few minutes' drive from the Strip, is one such place. It's not a glamorous shelter, but every month they welcome more than 5,000 people providing food. Clean water blankets, showers, a mailing address, and help connecting with social services. For a homeless person, a place to receive mail or take a shower isn't just a convenience, it's the first step to becoming a person again. A little further out, Vegas Stronger is on a special mission providing free addiction treatment. No insurance required, no identification card needed, because they understand that addiction doesn't care about your ID or your address. Every day, their teams go into the encampments, the parking lots, the storm drains, bringing with them methadone counseling and the belief that everyone deserves a second chance. The Nevada Homeless Alliance, like an invisible but strong network, connects more than 50 local organizations, including shelters, hospitals, churches, volunteer groups, and even community police. From organizing pop-up care villages to advocating for policy changes, they are the glue holding a fragmented system together. Notably, Las Vegas is piloting the Housing First model, a groundbreaking step. Instead of requiring homeless individuals to get sober or stabilize before being housed, they are given a home first with support services to follow. This model has been shown to reduce the rate of recurring homelessness by 40 to 60% in states that have adopted it. All these efforts will not eradicate the homeless crisis in Las Vegas, but they preserve dignity. Every person who is healed every night, someone has a warm blanket. Every morning, someone receives a letter for a job interview is another point of light in the cold desert. Not everyone sees these actions. They don't make the front page. They don't appear in the Vegas shows. But it is these quiet acts that are fighting against the invisible cold, the indifference and prejudice, which is often more desperate than hunger itself. No one is born to be forgotten. And in the heart of the desert, kindness, no matter how small, can be the first drop of water that sparks a revival. Number 7. The way out is not a dream. Lessons from the world. While Las Vegas struggles between its stage lights and its hidden lives, some nations have already proven that homelessness is not a permanent problem. It can be solved if we change the question we are asking. Not, what must a homeless person do to deserve a home? But rather, what must society do to ensure no one has to live on the street? Finland is the clearest example. In the 1980s, the Nordic nation faced widespread homelessness. But instead of investing in temporary shelters, overnight stays, or strict preconditions, the government chose a different path. Housing first. The principle is simple. Everyone deserves a home, even if they haven't overcome addiction, found a job, or stabilized their mental health. A home is not a reward. It is the foundation to start again. As a result, within 15 years, Finland reduced long-term homelessness by more than 80%. By 2023, it was the only country in Europe where homelessness continued to steadily decrease year after year. In Canada, a deeply humane model is also making a significant difference. Tiny home villages, small, low-cost housing communities built specifically for homeless or low-income individuals. These models not only provide safe and private shelter, but also have on-site support staff to help residents access healthcare, employment, and mental health services. A small but complete quiet and pressure-free space, this is the ideal environment for healing and reintegration. In Edmonton and Vancouver, these models have helped hundreds of people regain their confidence, reconnect with their community, and most importantly, have reduced the rate of recurring homelessness to below 20%. Both Finland and Canada understand one thing. A housing crisis cannot be solved with temporary fixes. It requires long-term commitment, coherent policies, and most importantly, the belief that anyone can be resurrected if they have a place to start. Perhaps Las Vegas is not Helsinki or Toronto, but if a city of dreams cannot make that dream a reality for its own residents. Number 8. The question for Las Vegas: glamour or humanity? In a place that generates $45 billion a year from tourism and entertainment, no one would think that a service worker would have to choose between buying food or paying for a shared bed. But that is the daily reality in Las Vegas, where the very people who create glamorous experiences for tourists are sleeping on the city's edge in tents, cars, or temporary motels. A city with no shortage of money. A city with no shortage of land. But it seems to be missing the most important thing: the will to change. The homelessness rate has increased by more than 56% in just 3 years. The people who cook in 5-star hotels, clean rooms in luxury resorts, and serve millions of guests each month are the same people who have to stand in line at free food distributions or beg to use the bathroom at a gas station. Las Vegas has successfully built its image as the city that never sleeps. But can it be proud if the very people who keep it awake have no place to sleep themselves? The issue here is not just a housing crisis. It is a crisis of values where labor no longer equates to security, and contribution does not guarantee a minimum roof over one's head. In a city that runs on the dedication of its service class workers, the fact that they are left behind is the most bitter irony. Many of them once believed that hard work was enough. They are not lazy. They do not shirk responsibility. They simply cannot keep up with the pace of a city that constantly raises its prices without increasing its compassion. When a single room downtown costs nearly a month's salary before taxes, the only choice left for many is to sacrifice the dream of stability to survive day by day. And even more frightening, this precarious existence is gradually becoming the new normal in the eyes of society. We are witnessing a quiet kind of loss where self-respect is eroded by every time one stands in line for bread, where isolation grows with every rejection for not having a permanent address, where a city begins to get used to seeing homeless people and then walks past them as if they were part of the landscape. So, the question for Las Vegas is no longer, are there enough resources? But rather, what kind of city does it want to be? A strong city is not one where no one fails. It's one where, when someone falls, there is a hand ready to help them up. The homeless crisis is not just about a lack of housing. It is a wake-up call about fairness and humanity in how a city treats its people. In Las Vegas, where the dazzling lights can blind the world, the stories behind the scenes force us to look directly. Thousands of people are living on the margins in tents, in cars, or underground, right next to the luxurious hotels they once served. A city can be rich, it can be prosperous, but if it allows its most vulnerable to be forgotten, then that prosperity is just an illusion. The time has come for Las Vegas and for all of us to ask, what meaning does the American dream have if it does not include everyone? If you believe these stories need to be heard, please press like and subscribe to the NVL Travel Documentary channel to join us on our journey to uncover the truths left behind in the shadows.